Rain fell over the small town of Brookhaven like a quiet sorrow, washing the streets that held more stories than anyone cared to know. Inside Lincoln Middle School, a cruel scene was unfolding, one that would soon be remembered by the entire town. A shy, thin girl stood in the hallway, clutching her backpack close as a group of students sneered and laughed, knocking her books to the ground. Her name was Lily, a transfer student who had just lost her mother and moved in with her grandmother. The laughter stung worse than the cold floor as she bent down to gather her scattered notebooks, trembling hands fighting back tears. But what those bullies didn't know, what nobody there could have guessed, was that someone was watching. Someone who had seen real battles, both on foreign soil and within his own heart. Someone who had sworn to never stand by in silence again. That man's name was Jack Reynolds, a single dad, a decorated veteran, and the janitor of that very school. Jack had been working at the school for nearly 2 years now. Most students barely noticed him. Just the quiet janitor who pushed his mop down the halls, always nodding politely, always disappearing before anyone could ask too much. What they didn't know was that before the mop and bucket, Jack had worn a uniform decorated with medals for bravery. He had led men through chaos, carried the wounded from burning vehicles, and returned home with scars no one could see. But life after the military had been harder than any war. His wife left soon after, unable to handle the nightmares that followed him home. And just like that, Jack became a single father to a little boy named Tommy, the only light left in his world. He took the janitor job because it allowed him to stay close to Tommy, who attended the same school. He didn't care what people thought. Every sweep of his mop was a reminder that he was still standing, that he still had a purpose. That morning, Jack had been cleaning near the cafeteria when he heard the noise, the cruel laughter, the sound of someone crying. He turned his head, eyes narrowing. When he saw Lily surrounded by those boys, his hands gripped the handle of his mop so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He'd seen that same kind of cruelty in the world before. People targeting the weak, the quiet, the innocent. Something inside him snapped. He walked forward slowly, his boots echoing through the corridor. The laughter died down as the bullies noticed him. The tallest one, Tyler, rolled his eyes. "Hey, janitor, this doesn't concern you," he said with a smirk. Jack didn't respond. He simply knelt down beside Lily, picking up her notebook gently, brushing the dust off its corner, and handing it to her with a small, reassuring nod. She looked up, her tear-filled eyes meeting his steady, kind gaze. Then, without raising his voice, Jack turned to the boys. His tone was calm, but it carried something deeper, something that froze the smirks on their faces. "You think being strong means hurting someone smaller than you?" he asked quietly. "You've got it all wrong. Real strength is standing up when no one else will." The hallway fell silent. There was something about the way he spoke, measured, controlled, but filled with a quiet authority that made them hesitate. Tyler tried to laugh it off, but his voice faltered. "Whatever, man. She's just weird." Jack's eyes didn't waver. "Apologize," he said simply. Not a shout, not a plea, a command, and for a reason none of them could explain. They did. One by one, the boys muttered quick apologies before walking off, glancing back nervously. Lily stood frozen, clutching her notebook. "Thank you," she whispered. Jack just smiled gently. "Don't thank me," he said. "Thank yourself for standing tall." Then he handed her one of the school's small kindness coins, something he'd started leaving around campus, hoping to remind kids that goodness still existed. "Keep this," he said. "Whenever the world feels heavy, remember that you're stronger than you think." That moment didn't just end the bullying, it changed the school. Word spread fast about the janitor who stepped in, who spoke with the calmness of a soldier and the warmth of a father. But what no one knew yet was the real reason behind his reaction. Later that evening, Jack sat in his small apartment, dinner half eaten, watching Tommy work on his homework at the kitchen table. "Dad," Tommy said suddenly, "people at school are saying you scared those bullies away. Is it true?" Jack smiled faintly. "I didn't scare them," he said softly. "I just reminded them of something they forgot." Tommy frowned. "What's that?" Jack looked at his son, the same age as those boys, and said quietly, "That kindness isn't weakness, and that real men protect, not destroy." But that night, when the lights went out, Jack couldn't sleep. His mind drifted back to the war, to a little girl he'd once met in a broken village overseas, crying as soldiers fought around her. He'd carried her to safety, but the image of her terrified face had haunted him ever since. When he saw Lily on the floor that morning, trembling just like that girl, it was as if the past had returned, and this time he wasn't going to fail. In the following days, something miraculous began to happen. The bullies started to change. Tyler, the ringleader, began staying after school, helping clean the gym. When Jack asked why, the boy shrugged and said, "I figured I owed you." Slowly, others joined in. They started a respect crew, a group of students who helped protect others, guided by the lessons they'd learned from Jack. Lily blossomed too. She started drawing again, something she'd given up after her mother's death. One day, she handed Jack a small sketchbook. On the cover, she had drawn a soldier kneeling beside a girl, offering her a coin with a heart engraved in it. Beneath the drawing, she wrote, "For the man who reminded me that kindness still wins." Jack's eyes burned with tears as he looked at the sketch. It wasn't just a drawing. It was a reminder that even broken people can help heal others. A few weeks later, during a school assembly, the principal called Jack on stage unexpectedly. The entire auditorium erupted in applause as the students stood and cheered. The principal handed him a plaque that read, "For courage, compassion, and service beyond duty." Jack tried to smile, but his throat tightened. He hadn't done it for recognition. He had done it because he couldn't stand to see another innocent soul broken by cruelty. Then, as the applause faded, Lily stepped forward, holding a microphone. Her voice trembled as she said, "When my mom died, I thought kindness died too. But Mr. Reynolds showed me it's still here, hidden in people like him. So, thank you for saving me not just that day, but every day since." Tears welled in Jack's eyes. He looked over at Tommy, who sat in the front row, beaming with pride. For the first time in years, Jack felt something he thought he'd lost long ago: peace. When the ceremony ended, Tyler approached him again, this time holding out a small medal. "Sir," he said awkwardly, "my dad told me what this means. You earned this in Afghanistan, right? You're a real hero." Jack looked at the medal in Tyler's hand, one he had thought lost years ago. "Where did you get this?" he asked softly. Tyler smiled faintly. "Lily found it in the hallway the day you helped her. She wanted to return it. But I thought you should get it from me, after I learned what real courage looks like." Jack stared at the medal, emotions crashing through him like waves. He placed a hand on Tyler's shoulder. "Son," he said quietly, "you've already shown more courage than most men I've met." As Jack walked home that evening with Tommy by his side, the sunset painted the sky in gold and crimson. For once, the town didn't feel small. It felt full of hope. A single act of kindness had rippled through an entire school, touching hearts and mending souls. That night, as Jack tucked Tommy into bed, the boy whispered, "Dad, do you think Mom can see us?" Jack smiled gently. "I think she can," he said, "and I think she's proud of us both." He turned off the light and stood by the window for a long time, watching the stars blink softly in the distance. The world had taken much from him, his peace, his marriage, his sleep, but it hadn't taken his purpose. He finally understood that maybe his mission wasn't over when he left the battlefield. Maybe it had just begun. He whispered into the quiet room, "Sometimes, the smallest battles are the most important ones." And from that day on, every time a student felt alone, or scared, or forgotten, they'd find a small kindness coin left on their desk, with 3 simple words etched into the back: "You are enough." If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances. Subscribe to our channel, Good Soul Stories, for more true and inspiring tales that remind us, heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they just carry a mop and a heart full of courage.